Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, November the 8th, 2019. It is currently 11:05 a.m. Central Time, and this is a live broadcast for the Spreaker app. Now, this live broadcast, it's obviously will be recorded. It will be uploaded and shared to a number of different podcast platforms, wherever you may hear us. If you would like to be able to listen to us when we're actually live, please go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Do a search for Spreaker. That's Spreaker, Spreaker. Download the app. Do a search for VBC, which stands for Victory Baptist Church, VBC. You should find us. You should find us. Tap on us. Tap on the little icon for Victory Baptist Church. It will pull us up. It'll say VBC. Then it'll say by Victory Baptist Church. Tap on that, and it'll bring up all of our podcasts. Go to each one, tap on the little star to make us a favorite. Please follow us. Please follow us. You do that by tapping on the follow button, and then I think you have to put in your email address, and I think maybe your name. I don't get that information. That goes to Spreaker, but what it does do, it will give me a notification that we have another follower. Have you listed as a follower? It'll show your name. Have you listed as a follower? That just gives us an idea of how many people are using the Spreaker app to listen to us. And that's important information as we move forward, trying to figure out which things to use, which things not to use. So please do the follow us so that we have an idea. All right. Now, what do I want to accomplish today in this live broadcast? I want to look at two news stories. Now, there's actually more than two that I would like to look at, but I don't want to turn this into a 3-hour broadcast. So I'm just going to look at two, offer some thoughts, offer some challenges, hopefully get us to think about what is happening in our world. And as always, get us as Christians to think about how we should be responding to the world, how we should think, what we should do, just keeping us informed. I think Christians should be informed about what's happening in their world, and we should think deeply about it. We have a culture, clearly, that has moved away from Christianity. I will argue in many cases moved against Christianity. Definitely more of a hostility towards it, a willingness to say very negative things about it. And we as Christians, we have to know how to function, and we have to see, and we have to know how to respond to it. We need to think about how to respond as well. All right, so very important things and two very important stories, and hopefully this will be beneficial for you. Are you ready? Okay, the first one. Before we get to the story, let's set this up. I think most will agree that if you get into a discussion with anyone in regards to abortion, and you take what will be sometimes referred to as a pro-life stance, you're opposed to abortion, you're anti-abortion, you believe abortion is murder, abortion is killing a human life. Those who are pro-abortion, those who are for it, will make some kind of argument that goes like this: it's not a human life. It's not a human being. It's just a blob of cells. It's a potential person. It's not actually a person. Therefore, it should not receive the same protections and the same rights as you and I, because it's not really a person. So all it is a surgical procedure to remove something from the body. It's not killing anything. No life is being taken. So stop your, you pro-life, anti-abortion people, stop your propaganda, stop your lies. It's not a life. And then you say, no, it is a life. And they say, no, it's not. And the debate continues. And finally, the argument then starts just devolving into circular reasoning. Many of the pro-life people will try to quote some Bible verses to supposedly prove that the baby is alive. Obviously the pro-abortion side will argue, I don't care about your Bible, I don't care about your scripture, I don't care about your Christianity. That has no binding on me. Then the pro-life person may try to refer to some scientific evidence, medical evidence, and then the pro-abortion person will argue, no, that's not true, that's not true. And then you'll get into argument maybe about brain waves, heartbeats, which trimester of the pregnancy. And it just goes on and 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 on. And really, in many cases, it doesn't feel like anyone's listening to the other side. No one's listening to each other. Everyone's speaking past each other. And then after, then ultimately the conversation maybe, it devolves into absolutely yelling, screaming, or personal attacks to one another. And then everyone walks away believing that they're still right. And the abortion debate continues and rages on. And that's always frustrating because while people are arguing, right? While people are arguing, at least over and over daily, millions of times a year, something is happening. Women who are pregnant walk into a clinic and they walk out no longer pregnant. All right? Something is being removed from the body. Something is being terminated. Something is happening. Even if you refer to it as a potential person, the potential person is stopped from coming into existence. If you say it's just a blob of cells, well, those blob of cells are stopped from developing into a person. Or if by chance it is a person, then a person is being killed over, time after time again. People are going in, they're carrying a baby, carrying a human being, and that human being's life is being terminated and they're being murdered. It's something that, I would think everyone would want to figure out what the truth is. It shouldn't be about political party. It shouldn't be about our agenda. Something is happening in every clinic where an abortion is performed. Something is happening. Something tangible is occurring. Something is being stopped. Something is being terminated. Something is being brought to an end. What is it? This is not about, well, I'm liberal and I believe in a woman's right to choose. Well, you can believe in a woman's right to choose, but if what she's choosing to do is terminating the life of something else, you would hope that you would stop that choice. Right? Because by that argument, then if I choose to terminate your life, is it my right to choose? And they'll say, well, it's not a life. It's her body. But if it's a life, it goes beyond her body. Like how do you, we have to find answers to these questions. It shouldn't be about debate. It shouldn't be about political affiliation. It should be about just an honest desire to know what is happening. Because if it is a life, that should change your perception. If it isn't a life, that should change your perception and understanding. It shouldn't be beholden to an ideology or a political affiliation or a side or a team, whether you're pro-abortion or pro-life. It shouldn't be about, titles. It should be about what is actually happening. Now, over and over again, and when I say over and over again, I don't have statistics in front of me at this moment, but I think we can all agree that there are a lot of situations where something happens involving a pregnant woman, where everyone who hears the news story is outraged. They are furious. And in many cases, when these things happen, it raises a red flag to me that, wait a minute. I thought we said that thing inside a pregnant woman is not a life. I thought we said it's not a baby. It's not a person. It's not a human being. When you get rid of it, you're not killing anything. But then something will happen, right? Maybe an abusive male will beat his girlfriend or his wife who is pregnant, and she loses the baby. And the next thing you know, that someone wants to bring charges up for him for murder. And you're like, wait a minute. If it's not a baby, he didn't murder anything. Okay, is there a law against stopping potential life? Like, it's like, now he should be obviously brought up on charges for assault to the mother. He should obviously for any physical harm done to the mother, but you can't all of a sudden then place murder on him and all think, well, no, that's a male, that's horrible. It's a man doing horrible things. Well, it is a man doing horrible things, but did he kill a baby or did he not kill a baby? Because according to the pro-abortion side, the mother could have gotten up 14 minutes before the assault occurred, walked into any abortion clinic, terminated the pregnancy, and she didn't commit murder because it's not a baby. But 14 minutes later, a man beats her up. She loses the potential baby. And now he should be brought up on murder charges? Wait a minute. Does not anyone see some inconsistency in that? Or a drunk driver hits a pregnant woman, right? And she loses the baby. The baby inside her dies. Well, wait a minute. Did a baby die or not? And then they want the drunk driver to be brought up on murder charges for killing the baby. How can it be? She could literally be on her way to the abortion clinic. She gets hit by a drunk driver. He kills the baby, and now he should be brought up on charges of why? And there's lots of these cases that occur this way, which raises some questions. Raises some questions. And again, I got to be careful about saying lot or many. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but they happen frequent enough, I will say, that they show up in news articles and then become topics of important. Topic of debate when you get into this argument between is it a life or not a life. And we have another one today. Here is the story. Let me bring it up. This comes to us in a number of sites. This one I found it on is DISRN. DISRN.com. DISRN.com. I've seen it on a number of websites and a number of places. Just this happens to be the one that's currently open on my iPad instead of searching for it. But here's the headline. This was published November the 5th, 2019 at 2:10 p.m. It looks like John Wesley Reed is the author of the article. California woman charged with murder after her unborn baby dies from her meth use. California woman. Now, California, all right, state of California. I'm assuming abortion is legal in the state of California, right? Okay, so a California woman is charged with murder after her unborn baby dies from her meth use. Now, can anyone raise their hand here and go, wait a minute, is it an unborn baby? Or is it not an unborn baby? Is it or isn't it? When does it become a baby? Does it become a baby when it exits the mother, takes its first breath? Does it become a baby in the third trimester? What trimester does it become a baby? When does the magic happen? When it goes from potential baby to baby. When does the magic occur? When does the transformation happen? When should the baby be given protection and rights as a human being that you cannot terminate its life? You cannot kill it. When a brainwave is measured, when a heartbeat is discovered, if it has a heartbeat, can you stop a heartbeat and say that you're not stopping a life? If it has a brainwave and you terminate it, are you not terminating a life? What is the answer here? So here's a woman. She was doing math. Now we can read I'll read a little bit of the article here so we get a basic idea. So, that no one thinks I'm, taking anything out of context. Police are currently looking for a California woman who's been charged with murder after her stillborn unborn baby was found to have lethal doses of methamphetamine in her system. Or in his system. The baby had it in his system, right? Please note, his system, right? So she had meth. The baby ended up with lethal doses of methamphetamine in his system. All right. The woman is being sought by police who have obtained a warrant for her arrest on murder charges. Investigators say that while she was notified of the effects the drugs could have on her child while she was pregnant, she had been using meth throughout the entire pregnancy. So she was warned. She continued to do meth throughout her entire pregnancy. Now, is that wrong or is that right? If it's not a life, who was she harming? She was harming herself. You can say, well, she was harming the potential life. But you can't be guilty of murder for harming potential life, can you? All right. This child who was stillborn was well over the toxic limit for an adult. Further investigation revealed that this woman's meth use predated the pregnancy and was the reason her first 3 children were taken away. Now, first thing, let's make this very clear. The woman obviously is addicted to meth. Clearly, she's a drug addict. There's nothing to laugh about. We should not simply be trying to use her just to make a political point. We should care about her, pray for her. Obviously, anyone who knows her should do everything they can to intervene to help her, get her off meth, get her clean, get her help, do whatever can happen. We want to see her life transformed. We want to see her free from that bondage, that slavery. We want her set free. We want her to experience a different kind of life. Not just use her as a political pawn in a political chess game. Okay, that's not what I want to do here, but it does raise a broader subject. So I want to set this woman aside. We should pray for her to be found, and in whatever happens in the trial, main thing she can get off drugs, and in whatever kind of a life she can have going forward. Hopefully she can have a great one. Maybe someday when her children are older, the 3 that were taken away, she can have reconciliation with them. And hopefully those 3 children are taken away from her. Pray for them. Who knows where they ended up? Just broken families, destroyed lives should bother us. All right. So let's get that out of the way first. But once we look at the broader argument here, it does raise the question. How can, on one hand, any woman at any time can walk into an abortion clinic, have the baby or whatever it is removed, and it's okay, but then the next breath, someone else can be brought up on murder charges for supposedly killing her baby? Is it a baby or isn't it a baby? Now, this is the broader argument. It's not an argument about abortion. It's an ongoing argument that I have about society. I think our current society has a major problem. Our current society first has a problem with logic, all right, consistency, and reality. Logic, consistency, and reality. Logic, consistency, and reality. Logic is not being taught, and because there's no logic, then how can you be consistent? Because you haven't even thought a position through logically. And then listen, reality, I think we live in a society where reality now is what you want reality to be. If you don't want that to be a baby, it's not a baby. But when you want it to be a baby, it is a baby. When you want someone to be a male, they're a male. When they don't want to be a male, they're not a male. It comes to gender, it comes to so many issues. It's a war on reality. Now clearly the society has already declared a war on morality and a world on transcendent morality and on absolute. There's been a war on truth. There's been a war on morality. And now there's a war on reality. But this is a disturbing story that's tragic, but it just shows the brokenness in the way thinking is working in our society. Thinking. All right. So, yeah. What can be said other than that? We just have to try to get people to go, wait a minute. And I'll end with this on this story because I think this is important. We got to stop yelling and screaming at each other. And I think everyone just needs to pause and go, wait a minute. Okay. Can we at least do this? Here's a woman. She's pregnant. She walks into that abortion clinic. She walks out. She's no longer pregnant. Can we all agree that coming to an absolute 100% positive understanding of what occurred inside that clinic is critical for any sane society? Because if that is a baby, then she just went in and killed her baby. Everyone should be appalled at that. In other words, we can't just stand outside screaming at each other and yelling at each other, going, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-choice, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. No, we should go, wait a minute, what is actually happening? Because if that's a murder, everyone should be shocked and go, wait a minute. As a society, we can't stand by and watch the slaughter of millions of lives because we don't want to question whether it's a life or not a life. And you got to remember that at different times in history, that's always the argument. Why can you enslave someone who's black? Well, they're not fully human. Why could you do this to the Jews? Well, they're not fully human. Why can you do this to Native Americans? Well, they're not fully human. You always attack the humanity of something, and if it's not truly human, then you can do whatever you want with it. Could it be possible that that same flawed argument has been used now to support abortion? If it's a life, you should care. Does a heartbeat and a brainwave make something alive? And it's just amazing that pregnant woman after pregnant woman will say, oh, feel my baby moving. They will speak of the baby as it's alive. That's pregnant women they do that all the, oh, my baby this, my baby's kicking me here, my baby did this, I felt my baby move. Oh, you go to the doctor and the doctor, look at the baby, look, oh, it's moving. Oh, there is its heartbeat. They'll even record the heartbeat. Are you telling me that like in normal conversation, we speak of it as a life, but in the abortion clinic, it's not a life? And some will say, well, it's not a life until when? When? Give me the magic number. When? There's plenty of people who want abortion legal all the way up to the point of pregnancy. So we remove which trimester? Where's the magical number? We've got to get to just trying to find out the answer to that question. Now, I obviously believe it's a life. But in our society, I'm a man, so it doesn't matter what I think about this subject. Only women can speak of this subject. Right? I guess, I just think that's just a foolish way to argue. You're a man, so you can't speak of it. Okay, so if someone who was not a Native American and witnessed the slaughter of Native Americans, they couldn't say, hey, I think the killing of Native Americans are wrong. Well, you're not a Native American, so you don't have any say-so in the matter. Okay? Yeah. Wait, I think slavery is wrong. Yeah, you're white. It doesn't count. Well, wait a minute, but I believe it's right. It doesn't matter. It's not your... Wait. I think you can speak about things being right and something being wrong and life being possibly murdered no matter what gender you are, what race you are. Wrong is wrong, but of course we've got a war on morality, we have a war on reality, we have a war on logic, and our society is in desperate need of some help. All right? So there's that story. Second story I have right here. The headline reads this. This is from the Christian Post. It was published November the 8th, 2019, which would mean it was published today. Nearly half of young adults with ties to Christianity say church can't answer their questions. Now that is a very... That's a troubling headline to me. Let me read it again. Nearly half of young adults with ties to Christianity say church can't answer their questions. Now, this survey has a lot of things going about attitudes towards church, about their feeling of connectivity with other people, loneliness, a lot of things here to consider. But I want to make this very clear. When it says half of young adults with ties to Christianity say church can't answer their questions, I'm going to say this. I don't need this survey to offer an absolute, and I'm going to say scathing condemnation on the church at large. I will believe the church at large can't answer the questions anyone asks if anyone has a brain and ask important, difficult questions, because the church in many places is not the place to ask questions. It's the place to simply sit and listen to you be indoctrinated by a certain system of systematic theology. The pastor learns a system of systematic theology. That's the system he uses to interpret all Scripture. All Scripture fits into a systematic theology. You accept that systematic theology, and you say any other view is wrong. Now, I'm all for finding truth, and I'm clearly for studying systematic theology. Most of my degrees are in theological studies, okay? So I'm all for that. But what I'm trying to say is it doesn't allow for questions. It doesn't allow for difficult questions. For example, at my church, we've spent week after week after week asking a very difficult question, and many people responded to me asking the question that I was dumb and wasting my time because it doesn't matter. The Bible seems to teach we're justified by faith. At the same time, it teaches that I'm going to be judged according to my works. How do I reconcile that? Galatians 5:16 seems to imply that if I can walk in the Spirit, I'm never going to fulfill the lust of the flesh. Well, I know Christian after Christian after Christian after Christian who seems to fulfill the lust of the flesh. So what's wrong there? When you ask those kinds of questions, in many cases, the church is not willing to accept those difficult questions. You're supposed to just go along with the status quo. Don't rock the boat. This is our systematic theology. Never question it. Never do it. Just go with it. I think the church in many cases is not a place for questions. It's not a place for struggle. It's not a place for doubt, even though they say it is. Or this is what happens. Some of the churches that say we are a place for questions, some of the places that say we are a place for doubt, are the place that basically tries to, they don't want any doctrinal truth. They almost become to say there is no truth. All answers are right. That's not a solution either. Questions, here's the thing. In Christianity, questions should be accepted, questions should be welcomed, and questions should be struggled with. But you struggle to find an answer. You don't struggle to go, well, you're right, I'm right, they're right, we're all right, because there really isn't any absolute truth. That isn't the Christian way, because the Christian way, the Christian journey, the Christian path demands that there is truth. I don't think churches really want to deal with difficult questions. I believe the church, look at the church, the average church. Its teaching is elementary, surface level, weak, lacking any real connection to difficult situations, or in many cases to reality. I talked about this earlier today in a podcast that I uploaded, that in many cases that the way the Christian response is that we sell a form of Christianity that has no connection to the reality that Christians experience. I come to Jesus and you get all of these things, and then when your life doesn't live up to it, we don't really have a good answer to why it doesn't. We're not willing to question our theology. For example, I'll say this in the charismatic world. The charismatic world, for the most part, many of the charismatic churches have a doctrinal statement that basically says that by what Christ did on the cross, by him by his sacrifice on the cross, by his stripes, we are healed. That what Christ did on the cross guarantees physical healing right now, here and now, in this life. Not just in the life to come, but right now. And if we will claim that healing, we get it. Okay, that's what they teach. The reality is, everywhere they look, there is sickness, there is death, there is disease, there is suffering. And what is their answer? Oh, you have a lack of faith. Well, everyone in that church who has all the faith they supposedly claim to have, they all get sick, they all get old, and they all die. So where's the guaranteed healing? See, they profess something, they sell something, they promote something that has no connection with reality. And I think what happens is many young people go, wait a minute, I've got questions. And they're just like, shh, you doubt. You walk by faith, not by sight. You be quiet, you unbeliever. And you're like, no, that's a good question. Now let's see if we can find truth. See, it's not just like your question is okay, my question is okay. No, it's like we need to find truth. And that requires then in-depth teaching. And I believe the church, the reason so many young people don't feel like the church is answering their questions is the church is not answering anybody's questions. Because church is a joke in many cases. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm not going to read this whole article, but I'm going to pick up just where they talk about this, because like I said, there's a number of things they talk about in this survey. But let me give you an example here of the things related to what we're talking about. 47% of respondents with some connection to Christianity say they feel the church cannot answer their questions or spiritual doubts. According to the study, 1 in 3 young adults, 32%, said hypocrisy of religious people caused them to doubt things of spiritual dimension. Almost half the young adults who have left Christianity see the religion as hypocritical. Okay, now let's stop right there. Yes, that's a very good question. Are Christians hypocrites? Yes, they are. Because we hold to a standard which we can never truly achieve. Unless we then sell Christianity, that if you become a Christian, you're now endued with supernatural power, and you can fulfill, and you can live up to the standard. No one actually ever can live up to the standard. That seems to be the Christian teaching. That's why we needed Jesus to die as a sacrifice, and we needed his imputed righteousness accredited to my account, because I could never live up to the standard of perfect holiness. So I think we have to be careful when we sell Christianity to young people that we tell them that, look, you're going to be a hypocrite from the start. You're going to say, God is holy, I'm to be holy, and I'm never going to be holy. Therefore, I'm always going to fall short. The hypocrisy is when you pretend to be something you're not. And in many Christians, many Christian adults, they're taught to talk the language. I'm good. I'm more than a conqueror. I can do this. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. He's got the power in me to overcome the world, and I can overcome the flesh, and I can overcome the devil, and I can. And then the kids go home and look at the parents going, wait a minute, they're not as godly as they pretend to be. I think that's going to raise questions. The young people have every right to ask the question about hypocrisy. We need to give them a better answer of why Christians appear to be hypocrites, because we fall short. We don't live up to the standard which we profess. That's why we believe that Jesus hung on a cross and died, because we can't do it. Now, if you believe we couldn't do it, Jesus died, then he gives us the ability to do it, and now we can do it. Well, then, yeah, you're going to have to live up to a perfect standard, and you're not going to live up to a perfect standard. See, but that's a question, but we have to try to figure out a biblical answer too. The article continues. Back up a little bit. What are some other questions they have here? All right, the article is broken up with all these advertisements, so that's why I'm pausing there for a second. All right, so they say that the church is not answering their questions. They get upset with hypocrisy. 31% said science challenges their willingness to believe. All right, now I will argue that Christians in many cases are answers to scientific challenges. Sometimes causes more problems because this is very important. Here's what happens. Sometimes we offer really fraudulent answers to scientific challenges. We get information from some poorly written website arguing against some scientific concept, and then when that young person then runs off to a university and throws that answer at their teacher, the teacher looks at them and starts laughing at them, going, "Are you stupid?" And you're like, do you realize that what you just quoted there is absolutely provable wrong? And then they go and look up some information and go, you're lied to. We got to give our kids better answers than what some Christian websites provide, which in many cases is questionable answers to scientific challenges. I think that's important. The article continues. 28% of respondents said human suffering and conflicts around the world cause them to have doubts. Well, I bet. Suffering all around. Suffering everywhere. Well, that's going to begin them to raise questions, because we're like, wait a minute. God is all powerful. He can do everything, but he doesn't choose to do anything for all the people suffering and dying and are laying here, laying there, suffering everywhere. Starvation, death, pain, war, disease. We've got to face those challenges head on as Christians and as churches. Young people should ask those questions. They shouldn't accept our broken down, shallow answers that ignore the truth. I remember how much controversy I created. There was a church in my local area that was doing something, I don't know, youth or vacation Bible school. And they were quoting the verse, God, will feed the birds of the air, so he'll feed you. Basically, hey, don't worry about anything. God's going to provide everything you need. He's going to feed you. Don't worry about anything. God will provide. And so I posted a famous photograph of this starving child who's knelt down on the ground, and next to him is a bird, like a buzzard, ready to, devour the child when he will die. And I said something like, yep, God will feed the birds, right? Because I'm arguing how God will feed the birds. In this particular case, he's going to feed the bird with the death of a child who he doesn't provide food for. Now, I'm a Christian. I raised that kind of problem, and Christians got mad at me. And I'm like, wait a minute. Do you know how many children starve to death every day in the world? But you're not supposed to raise those questions. No, church is not placed for those kinds of questions. Young people are going to have those questions because they see suffering. Here's a question, right? Some horrible tragedy occurs, right? Some horrible tragedy occurs. Right? The tragedy occurs, there's pain and suffering. And then Christians say, well, let's pray about the situation. Well, we got to at least think about this logically. We're praying to the very God who allowed the situation. Now we want God to intervene in the situation? Well, didn't he allow the situation? You're like, well, he allowed it, but he didn't want it to happen. He didn't want it to happen, so it wasn't his will? Those are kind of, and see, the church raises those questions. Christians get mad. But what happens is young people are smart enough to look at the world and go, I don't understand. The church has to do better at answering difficult questions. And sometimes this, here's I know this is a shock. Sometimes we have to say, we don't have a good answer. We don't have a good answer. But this is what I know. If I remove God from the equation, you don't have a great answer either. If you remove God from the situation, then can you even call evil evil? Can you call wrong wrong? Like you raise all kinds of philosophical problems for yourself. So this article from the Christian Post is showing that young people are having lots of questions and their questions are not being answered. The church, they feel the church is ignoring them, and that the church is not really helping them deal with all the questions that they are confronted with. Young people are being raised in a secular society, and a secular society no longer embraces Christianity. In fact, in many cases, is antagonistic to Christianity. And those Christian young people see the questions, they see the articles, they see the doubts, they see the skepticism. And they want to go to church and get something more than being told, don't drink, don't chew, don't run with the girls who do, don't have sex, don't listen to rock and roll. They want something more. And I will argue young people want something more than pizza parties, activities, fun, food, and games. Now, many of them want all of the fun, food, and games and activities, but they need something more. They need to be treated as actual people with a brain and be challenged. Some of these kids will go to a high school and be more challenged, mentally in high school than they be in their youth group. Their youth group, they're treated like they're idiots who can't know anything. How about the church actually treats those young people like they have brains and say, hey, in school you get challenged, in church you're going to get challenged. We're going to ask tough questions. We're going to dig into scripture. We're going to think. We're going to look at church history. We're going to look at theology. We're going to work. We're going to struggle. We're going to question. We're going to try to find answers because there is answers. There is truth. We believe Christianity to be true, and if Christianity is true, it can withstand all the questions in the world because truth will always win out. It may lead us to a period of great confusion and doubt and questioning, but it can withstand it. Church treats young people like they're just there to entertain and keep happy so that we can keep the mom and dad coming to our church. Young people are not simply a tool we utilize and manipulate in order to keep the parents happy members of the church because the parents give the money. Young people aren't tools to use to keep parents. Young people are real people created in the image of God who have real questions and real doubts, and those questions, in fact, they should be confronted with more questions than they could even ask. Something to think about. All right, those are the two news stories. I'll stop there. I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. So here, I'll give you the two headlines so that you have them, all right? The first one, California woman charged with murder after her unborn baby dies from her meth use. And the second story, nearly half of young adults with ties to Christianity say church can't answer their questions. I don't even know if it's a matter of can't. It's a matter they don't want to. They don't even want to deal with those controversial. Listen to the sermons. Sermons just skip over difficult situations, difficult passage, difficult questions. Even when the passage screams that, oh man, this is a problem. This seems to contradict this. This seems to contradict that. This is just a major problem. Nope, just no problem at all. No problem at all. It should not be that way, but I won't repreach everything that I just talked about. All right. You can email me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com, and give me your thoughts on, well, what's happening and your thoughts just about anything. newsif@yahoo.com. And please get the Spreaker app, Spreaker, Spreaker. If you can't find it, email me at newsif@yahoo.com. I'll send you the link. Just let me know if you're using an Android or Apple device. And please, 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 if you're using Spreaker, please follow us. I need to see your name listed where I'm like, oh, okay, because right now, I know right now we're in this weird app transition from our church app, maybe moving to Spreaker, maybe not. I'm still waiting for answers, still not getting very good answers. But here's what I need. Right now, I think we have 10 followers via Spreaker. We need to up that, okay? Because I know if I look at the numbers, especially some of our download numbers on all of our platforms, there's a whole lot of people listening to us in a whole lot of different locations. So if we can move them all to Spreaker and they're all using the Spreaker app, then we'll get a really good idea of how effective we are being or not being. Right now, our numbers are split in so many different places. I think right now on SoundCloud, we're well over 30,000 downloads and streams. I don't even have a clue how many via Anchor. And then we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google. I mean, we're everywhere. If I gather up all the numbers from all the different sources, we're probably well over 100,000 downloads and streams. I don't even know what the number would be. So we need to try to get it all together where we can kind of get an idea what's the most effective way to reach people and the most effective platform to be on so that we can make wise financial decisions. So your help will be greatly appreciated there, and I'll keep you up to date with the church app because I'm hoping by today I have an answer, and if I don't get an answer today, I think that answers the problem for us. Nobody's going to give us an answer, then Spreaker will be the place we will go. So just get Spreaker. That's the best way to keep up with everything as of right now. And it's a good way to be able to listen to. It's the best way to listen to live broadcasts. Spreaker. Even if we end up with another app, you still want Spreaker on your device and you still want to follow us because you'll be notified when I go live. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, everyone have a great day. Plenty of things happening in your world. Think about it. Consider it. I just thought of some other points I want to add to that last news story, but I will not. We'll talk about it again soon. God bless.